Hello, and welcome to the Iron Spoon Kitchen, where I've got the iron spoon and some flour right now. Today, we're going to be doing shrimp etouffee, or civet etouffee. Not much on my French accent, but this is a recipe that I have really enjoyed. My brother-in-law's mother found it in the newspaper, and in doing all my research, a lot of recipes used to be published in newspapers, not just in books and things like that. But so this one was taken out of a Houston paper many years ago, and my mom added to it and made some changes. And so I'm going to make it for you today. And this is one recipe. You can see it looks like it's really old, but it's probably only about 20 years old because I've made it so many times. Now, I know you're saying, now, you said you were going to make these things first time. I did say that, but I also reserve the right to change my mind. So here today is everything that we're going to do, and it is going to be shrimp etouffee. And the reason I've made it so much is I used to make it for my staff, and I would make it for 80. But today, we're just making it for about 8. So we're going to begin with all these fresh ingredients here. We have the shrimp, we have red pepper, white pepper, garlic, black pepper, salt, thyme, basil, flour, a little bit of celery, green onion, and green bell pepper, and red bell pepper. And the red bell pepper adds a nice little color to it. And I think that's it. I think I'm going to go ahead and get started with it. And I think I'm going to need to bring you over here right next to the pot so you can see what I'm doing. Now it's on with the crevette etouffee. I think I said servette, but it's crevette etouffee. I think servette is a napkin. So, but we're just going to say shrimp etouffee. That's a lot easier. We're going to start with making the roux, and we're going to start with a half cup of liquid olive oil. Come on out of there. Oh, that takes a long time. Well, there's our olive oil, and use olive oil. It makes a big difference. Now we're going to add our flour. We're going to start cooking until this starts to turn brown. Let me see if I can get a better picture for you closer up. And here we go, making the roux. This is going to be a lot of stirring to get this doing a light brown. It's not going to be a dark brown. The one thing about this part is that you cannot leave this unattended, because as soon as you think it is ready or it's not ready, you think it's not going to turn, that's when it turns. And what I'll be doing is I'll add the other ingredients once I get this to the right color. I think we're going to take a break, and when we come back, you're going to see a little bit browner roux. I'm not through stirring, but it's starting to get brown. I wanted to show you that, and I'm going to start adding the ingredients, some of the ingredients. Salt and pepper, red pepper, and white pepper. Thyme and basil. And I'll put the recipe at the end of the show so you can see that, see what the amounts were or are. Okay, now I'm going to add the vegetables. There's the onion. You have to say onion when you're making shrimp etouffee. Celery. Green and red bell pepper. Okay, I'm going to be stirring this for a while. So I think this is when we're going to need a little music. So cue the music. Now I'm going to add the garlic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, looks like 7 cloves of garlic. And you can chop it up or do it this way. I like doing it this way. That way nobody gets a hunk of garlic. Of course, maybe somebody would like a hunk of garlic. That was 2. You don't put the garlic in when you're doing all this, because the garlic, when you're doing all that stirring, because that garlic will burn. So you add it at the end. And I have turned off the fire. In reading these cookbooks, the difference when you hit about the 1940s is very different. The cooking techniques, because by that time people have stoves, indoor stoves, and up until the 1920s, a lot of people, well, maybe even into the 40s, people were still using wood-fired stoves. And let's mix that in a little bit. We'll get rid of this garlic debris. Turn the fire back on. That's certainly a convenience. Now we're going to add some broth. And we add the broth. I've got chicken and beef broth. Whoa, making a mess. And one more. So it's 2 cans of beef and 2 cans of chicken. I've done it both ways. You can have it just to use the beef broth or just the chicken, but the beef broth helps to give it a better color. Let's start mixing this together. And what we've done is that we've concentrated all that flavor in that roux. And now it's all going to come out. And we're almost done. I'm going to get this to mix up a little bit. Then I'm going to be adding the shrimp. Ooh, this is smelling good. Now I'm going to add 4 pounds of shrimp. And when you're doing this, you got to make sure you keep scraping the bottom a little bit, not a whole lot, just to make sure you don't have any of that flour and roux mixture at the bottom there, which I do have here. I want to make sure I get all that because that's all that concentrated flavor that we were making. And once I add the shrimp, we'll just let it sit and absorb those flavors. I'm going to turn up the heat here. And one of the best things about shrimp etouffee is that you can freeze it. And it will last for months and still be good. Things might last for months, but they don't taste good. But this still tastes good. Okay, when I come back, it should be done. It is done. Ooh, this smells good. And I did mix this with a little bit of, I had 2 pounds of frozen shrimp, and then I added 2 pounds of fresh shrimp. I think this is going to be one of my best etouffees. In fact, I've already tasted it, and it's just as delicious. So I'm just going to let this sit here for a while. The heat is turned off, and let it absorb some of that. I have some rice right here, and I'll meet you at the table in just a few minutes. It is ready to eat. I thought that I'd say a little bit more about the recipe. As I said, this is something that you can freeze, and you can have it frozen for months and months. And I think that you'll really find this is a delicious recipe for etouffee. A lot of some recipes, not a lot, but some others have tomato in it, and that's fine. But I found this one without the tomato to be the best. So let's take a taste with the actual iron spoon and see what we got here. Get that shrimp on there. Mmm. Perfect. Just enough heat. If you don't want any heat, you can just leave out the cayenne pepper. But it gives it just a little bit of a kick, not too much. If someone wants more, they can add some Tabasco sauce to it or something like that. Well, this is another recipe going over 250 years of American recipes. And one of the things that you're going to notice is that American recipes have recipes from all over the place, different countries. And this is different influences. The shrimp etouffee first shows up at a restaurant or a hotel restaurant in, I believe, in Louisiana, in New Orleans, I believe. And that was in the 1920s. but you don't see it in recipes until the 1950s. And I was looking through a cookbook that my mother did at our church where I was growing up, and she was in charge of putting it together. This was back in 1975, and sure enough, there was a recipe for shrimp etouffee in it. I didn't have to go too far. And remember, etouffee just means smothered. And you can smother steak. You can have steak etouffee, whatever you want. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like it and subscribe. That's what they do in YouTube land. And I hope that you'll join me back next week for our next installment of the Iron Spoon Kitchen.